Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 61 of ZK Live. It is Sunday night. We're doing our Q&A. We have some questions about advice on getting started in a paint company, some overspray talk. We're going to discuss brush strokes. We're going to discuss a few different types of sprayers, as we like to here. And I also have a question about caulking. As always, please put your questions down at the bottom. There's a little question mark inside of a bubble. That's the best place to put them. That way we can see them. Hope everybody had a great holiday. New Year's is coming up. Most of the team is off. We gave everybody a paid week's vacation and an optional unpaid week of vacation if they want to take it. And most everyone has taken me up on that. A couple people haven't. So we're going to be doing some training in the shop for some of the team. I'm going to be working on writing out some SOPs, getting organized, getting ready to go into the new year strong. But let's just dive right into it. We'll see. We always say we're going to keep these things short, and they go because more questions get asked. So as always, put your questions down at the bottom. And here we go. Let's see. Where should we start? Let's just get this one out of the way. This is an easy one. The paint professor said, how much is ZK Finishing School and how do I sign up? So the Fine Paints of Europe training, which is a weekend-long course that we do every month, is $2,500 per company for the first person, and then any additional members of the company that come are half the price. So $1,250 for each additional person from your company. We limit it to 6 companies, so it stays small. If you're interested, again, go to our Instagram. There's an email address there. It's zkfinishingschool@gmail.com, and we'll fill in all the details. Because New Year's is next weekend, we are not having finishing school the first weekend of January. We're having it on the second weekend of January. There's still a couple spots left in that class. We have, I think there's like 3 companies that have paid. A number of people, like 5 people have said they're coming, but you know, anyone that can signs up tomorrow gets in because it's a first come, first served basis based off of sending the money, not saying I want to come. Because, again, people say they're going to come, we hold a spot for them, and then they didn't come at the last minute last time. So we're not doing it that way anymore. So let's see. We have a couple new questions already. So as always, we're going to answer the questions that come in during the live. That way, we're assuming those people are here. We have a statement. We have a statement and a statement. Well, this is a question. This is a statement. Question. Rhetorical question, I'm pretty sure. Obviously it is. Carrera Custom Finishes says, can I relocate and come work for you? Smile, laughing emoji. Yeah, man. You got it. If you want to relocate and come work for me, you can. But I don't think that's going to happen. Here we go. I'm reading all the questions first. All right. So Glenn Lampton 1 said, how do you put a clear coat on pine, new wood, camping stool / table? Most polys smell to high heaven and require temperature. And then I have to click over here to read the rest of it because it's long. And require temperature and ventilation. And I think you asked more, but I can't read more of it. So let's put the question back up. The question is about clear coats on pine. Where is it? Here we go. How do you put a clear coat on pine? I mean, there's a couple different ways. If you don't have a sprayer, then I would probably just brush an oil-based polyurethane on there. A water-based polyurethane will work too, actually. If, aesthetics. If it's a camping stool and table, I think you can get away with let's see. What is that stuff? It has a dark green label. They sell it at Sherwin-Williams. It's a clear coat. It comes in oil and water. Oh, man. You could use a clear polyurethane, water-based. If it's just like, you just want to seal it up. God, why can't I think of the name of that stuff? Oh, man, it's Helmsman. Thank you, whoever said that. WW Sum said that in the comments. Helmsman. They sell it at Sherwin-Williams. It's good stuff. It's not top of the line, but if you don't want to spray and you don't want to get into using a 2-part polyurethane, then Helmsman is a good option. It's fairly durable stuff, and you could just brush on. I would probably thin my first coat a ways so that it dives in and really adheres well. Make sure you have dry wood. Make sure you've sanded your wood to probably 180, 220. And then I would apply probably Helmsman if I'm just trying to get by. Or if you want a super durable thing and you can spray and you have the ability to, a 2K poly, whether it be solvent, that's the most durable, or a waterborne 2K, both of those will work. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you prepare your surface well and that you follow like all of the specs on the can, whatever you end up going with. But Helmsman is the most cost-effective. Water-based Helmsman will do well for you if you don't have a high standard, and you won't regret it. But prep is key, and put a few more coats on than you think. Thanks for your question. Here we go. Create construction. What's going on? She said, can you teach me to spray like a master? Absolutely. That's what ZK Finishing School is all about. The weekend that we go over FPE training is pretty, there's 4 hours of intense spray training. We might look into just a general weekend of spraying as well. But right now we're focused on the FPE training is essentially it's high level finishing training. It doesn't apply only to fine paints of Europe. Why we call it FPE training and we do focus on fine paints of Europe because fine paints of Europe is the highest level, most difficult coating to apply at a very high level. So we teach concepts in the course. Like the weekend is really about big picture concepts, things that can be directly applied to all types of spraying and brushing and coatings application, right? But when we talk about using a domestic paint, it has a much wider margin of error. So oftentimes you can get away with things when you're using domestic paint that if you're using higher level coatings like the Fine Paints of Europe products, they have a much more narrow margin of error. So when we approach, that's why we have the FPE training, and when we approach FPE, we go about it with concepts of how we go about things. What are we trying to think like? How are we thinking? What are the steps that we're going to go through to ensure a good product at the end, right? And so those procedures will sort of apply to many different applications as far as coatings, as far as, in the field, in the shop. That's why we do a lot of training on setting up spray booths, like air movers, all those things. We go into the prep because you could spray like a master, but if your prep isn't on point, you're still going to suffer. The project will suffer. Exactly. So like Create said, teach the hardest paint and the other paints will be easy. Exactly. So we go, here's the way to approach it. Not, here's exactly what you do with this exact paint, with this exact substrate, and this exact temperature, right? Because if we go too specific, then that's great for one thing. But if you can't apply it when something changes in your project, then what you learned in that weekend is not very valuable. So we are much more concerned about core concepts and approaching things and how we approach things so that it can be applied to multiple situations. And so then, yes, if you know how to mentally think about and approach spraying gloss vertically on site, right? Black gloss vertically on site, probably as hard as it gets. If you can, through the weekend, you'll learn how we approach it, and that will then inform many other types of spraying and will dramatically increase your success rate. Because that's what we look at is trying to find predictable results. That's what a professional is. That's what we care about as a professional paint contractor, is predictable results. And anyone who sprays paint knows how difficult that can be. Predictable results are not always easy. By nature, what we're doing is always different, right? It's always a different house it's always a different product. Not always, but it can be. And unfortunately, that's a thing we deal with a lot, and we're working really hard to narrow down the products that we use to take that piece away. And it could be a different sprayer, a different color. Man, you change the color, go from a white to a black, and watch how much harder it gets, right? To get a high level finish. Yes, please send me a DM. Send an email to zkfinishingschool@gmail.com. We still have spots in January and in February as well. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And just because you get away with something, right? We talk about it at school a lot, like Benjamin Moore satin white, right? Let's just say Scuffex or Advance. Scuffex specifically has a very, very, very wide margin of error. You can have some very, you can do some not best practice things and get good results. You're not taking a huge gamble on the outcome. But if you switch that out, let's even just say the Scuffex Black semi-gloss, right? Now you have a higher, a narrower margin for error. And yes, and Advance is going to be a narrower margin of error than Scuffex because it stays open longer, it's going to sag more. But Advance is an amazing product for the average, a standard medium to high end trim package. Advance is a great product, but it has some pieces to it that make it not as easy to spray as, say, a Scuffex would be. But it has some advantages aesthetically, for sure, and arguably durability-wise as well. Again, Felix, if you can put those questions down at the bottom where there's a little question mark and a bubble, I can pop them up and I can get back to them. That's the best way to put your questions in. When you put your questions in the messages, I tend to miss them. A wise man once said, Pyramid Granite Solution said, a wise man once said, master your spray or the spray will become your master. Boy, it can be frustrating. AG Professional Painting said, do you still use your Graco 395 Air Assist? No, we don't. I do not recommend that piece of equipment for anyone. If you have one already, okay. I would not go out and buy a Finish Pro 395. I don't. And we've gone over that a number of times, and if you really want, I can go deeper into it. But I don't think it's a great machine. It's not, for the money, it's not a great machine at this time in the market. Let's see. I got some of my favorite seltzer tonight. Grape Waterloo. Oh my God. It's like grape soda with no sugar. Thanks for your question, Create. Let's see. Mickey the Painter said, some people say $2,500 is expensive. Not anyone that comes to the class. I've not heard anyone say anything like that. I can see how people might think that if you don't. I mean, anything's expensive and inexpensive. It's about value, right? Price. We care about the value, and I'm very confident that the $2,500 invested in this weekend course will pay for itself many times over. It will save people many thousands of dollars of trial and error, of mistakes on projects, of looking bad in front of clients, in many things. I spent way more than $2,500 learning the lessons that we teach in the course, and we're able to speed things up for people and save them a lot of time. If you don't have the money and you have plenty of time, arguably maybe if your time is worth $0 and you have $2,500 worth of material, I would say, okay, maybe, and you already have the equipment, which I don't think you probably do, maybe you end up all right. But I think that we're offering a tremendous amount of value in money saved. It's shortened. We massively shorten the learning curve, right? Because I spent tens and tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours and looked bad in front of clients for years to get our processes and our approach down to where they are today. So we're able to take all of that experience and condense it down. And what the way I see it is the $2,500 is cheap insurance. It's going to save people from making big mistakes that cost them a lot more than $2,500. Whether it's in material and it's in labor, or the $2,500 is probably a big savings is going to come from the referral that you'll still get from a client when you do that first project, or when you do a project, instead of burning a bridge with a good client because you don't deliver the way that you were trying to deliver. Right? I think more than anything, that can be the most expensive thing. The opportunity cost of the labor is huge, right? If you're redoing something that you could be spending that time making money on another project, that time gets even more expensive. And sorry, maybe repackage the sell. $200 for the program, $2,300 for food. We do eat really well throughout the weekend, and food is included in the $2,500. I am a food snob. I don't like to. I think, and it's a very mentally draining weekend. So we want to stay fueled. So we eat well. We had donuts the first couple times. Try not to eat donuts anymore. We have breakfast sandwiches at least. We have like good Mexican for one of the days, and a good restaurant down the street for the other lunch. And then we have an awesome dinner on Saturday night at the country club that is really great. But yeah, I think we look at the price as the value that we offer, and we've settled on $2,500 and keeping the classes smaller and being a profitable entity, because I want to grow this thing and build out a facility and train multiple courses, not just fine paints training, if you will. I want it to be more than just one weekend a month. No, dude, Mickey, I put it up. It's not a bad question. It's a great question, because on the surface, $2,500 can seem like a lot of money. I know it would have to me. When I hired my first consultant and he told me how much it was going to be, it was like, I was shocked. I ended up spending, I think, $6,000 total with this consultant. And at the time, I remember just thinking, like, oh, here we go. It was all the money I had. And I remember cashing a check from a client on a Friday to be able to pay him before he left, the final payment. Like, I was down to like my last dollars, but I was investing in myself. And I think that we see the 25, like, there's nothing I want more, nothing that would bother me more than if someone walked away thinking that they didn't get their money's worth. And we do exit interviews from everybody. And so far I sleep really well at night at the $2,500 price point. When I first started, we were 1,000, and because we were working out kinks. And from the first class to this last class, we have come so far. We're just so much more efficient, and we're transferring great information, and it's better and better and better. So if you couldn't tell, I'm really proud of what we've built so far, and it continues to get better. But I'm confident that we're saving people a lot of time and money, because I would have killed for half the things that we teach to have learned without learning it the hard way. I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And most of the time I didn't take on small projects. So, yeah, Wet Paint, Mikey from Wet Paint, who's come to 2 of the courses, he said you make the $2,500 back on your first higher level paint job if you apply the skills and practices learned. He said, I would have killed for something like this 5 years ago. I spent thousands learning the hard way. Yeah, I think a lot of us did. You have 1 or 2 jobs go sideways, and you go back and look at it, and you realize you spent a lot more than $2,500, especially when you look at the opportunity cost of revenue you could have generated doing something else that wasn't fixing your work. The next class is the second weekend of January. Penn Construction asked that. All right, we got more questions coming in. Here we go. Mickey, 2 back-to-back. Have you ever sprayed a car? And if so, what model? And is it easier than painting a door with FPE? I have not sprayed a car. Yes, painting cars is definitely easier than painting a door with FPE. Automotive paint, although, again, the stakes are incredibly high because that paint is very expensive, it dries much faster. And, you know, I don't know. I have not sprayed a ton. We've sprayed some automotive paint. But automotive paint is similar to like a 2-part urethane or something. Excuse me. They're meant to dry fast. They're meant to be applied. Like, you know, I have to think I'm quite certain that there's not a harder product to spray than an oil enamel. You have, you know, a long open time. And when you're trying to put out paint and make it look like glass and be dust free with a long open time, it adds so much more difficulty than, at least if you make a mistake with automotive paint, you can put an infrared heater on it and you can sand it out 30 minutes later. If you make a mistake with oil enamel, you are waiting 24 hours, you are sanding out that drip, you are applying more paint to build up, then you are sanding that out the next day. Then if you're lucky, it only takes you 2 extra days. If you're lucky. But oftentimes it might take more time. So the dry times with the FPE make the stakes go up so much higher. If I make a mistake on your door, I have to call you and say, I need 2-3 more days, like at minimum. If you make a mistake with car paint, you might spend some more time, some more paint, but you can fix it and your lead times don't change dramatically. So from what I understand, from my, obviously I've not painted cars, but I don't think that car paint is nearly as difficult as FPE. Because again, I think car paint is a lot like FPE, where it's really comes down to the surface preparation. You know, surface preparation with these high-level fine finishes are very important. So all things being equal, the surface prep is the same, but one of them takes way longer to dry than the other one. And so to me, that adds a lot of difficulty there. Thank you for your question. But anyone who's painted with both, I would love to hear your thoughts. Wet paint, Mikey said Chris from Clean Cut came from the automotive industry, and he said that FPE oil is an absolute beast to deal with. I think that's what he means. Yes. Is it necessary to have a climate-controlled spray booth for FPE? Yes. Yes. A climate-controlled spray booth to a certain degree, right? I don't mean you have to have an air makeup unit like we do, but yes, like you need to have your air temperature and your humidity at somewhat of a standard. Right? If you don't want to spray it at 50 degrees and you don't want to spray it at 120, well, the higher temperatures aren't as bad. You don't want to spray it at 50 degrees with 90% humidity. That will be very, very difficult to spray oil enamel with. So you would like to have somewhat of a climate-controlled booth, which can just mean you're using a heater and a dehumidifier, if that's what it means, and a small fan, if that's where you're at. But yeah, I think you definitely want to have some control of your environment. The more control, the better, to be fair. The more control, which is true with all the things that we do. Okay, here we go. This is a good question. One let's just say Lopez Felix, because I'm going to pretend like that one is an L. What do you say to clients when they say the job is too expensive? We say two things. Okay, then we can change the scope, or we're not a good fit. And that's the only two questions. The only two answers are, because here's my price. Here's my price. Generally we're going to talk to a client. We're going to listen and listen and listen and listen. And we're going to design a paint spec to best suit their needs and their desires. And then we're going to give a price to that. And at that point, if they say it's too expensive, we're going to say two things. One of two things. Or we're going to say two things, and you can decide. We're going to say we can change the scope of work to reduce the price, or we're not going to do the project. And good luck. I wish you nothing but the best, like no hard feelings. Sometimes that's hard to say, but at this point it's not. At this point I know, like, we've just had too many bad examples of changing your price. I don't ever think it makes sense to change your price and not change the scope. And so we don't. And I would rather lose the project. I'd rather have to lay people off than take a project that loses money. Why pay someone to paint their project? I'd rather sit at home and save money than put money out and go to work. That doesn't make any sense. John made a very good point. Too many people lower their price to get the job, and then they don't have it in the budget to deliver. That is a huge problem in our industry. The big piece that we're missing is we can change the scope. Okay, so Mrs. Jones, you say that you want a 10,000 square foot house, but you only have the budget for a 5,000 square foot house. Let's build a 5,000 square foot house. And if you want to add on 5,000 square feet over the next 5 years, you can do that. But I'm not going to sell you a 10,000 square foot house for half the price that it costs. And when you see it on a bigger scale, that makes sense. But when we look at a small paint job, and oftentimes as painters, we're not trained in sales and marketing, sales particularly. And we're not professional, and we don't know our numbers, and we don't have a bunch of leads to choose from, right? That's where the marketing piece comes in. If we haven't built up enough demand where we can walk into any project and say, oh, I'm sorry, it looks like this isn't a good fit. Good luck to find someone else. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who will come in here and who will give you some version of the paint job that you want for the price that you do want. And if the price is the most important thing to you and you want the whole thing, you don't want to change scope, then I'm sorry, but I have to bow out. And that's rarer and rarer as my marketing gets better and as we try to vet our clients before we ever go out, before we ever have long conversations, and before we ever give them pricing. The more you can vet the client ahead of time, the better. But yeah, it's much better to say, okay, look, we just gave you let's say a $20,000. Let's see, I just gave a price to repaint a kitchen. It was like $27,000 to paint the kitchen. Cabinets, walls, ceilings, trim, the whole deal. Is a big job. And so say that client says, oh, you know what? I don't have $27,000 to spend, or I don't want to spend $27,000. Okay, well, let's do just the kitchen cabinets. And then we can do the rest of the painting on a later date. And we could save you $10,000. Or something along those lines. Well, we're gonna change what we are giving you and in turn we will then lower the price. But we're not going to arbitrarily lower the price. This is where we have trained clients to just expect that our prices are just coming from nowhere. We're just looking around the room and like guessing a number and, oh, fine. I mean, I can move that around a little bit. Like, whoa. Like, because in my experience, so say you do that, you take that 27,000 and you're like, you know what? I'll do the job. If they give you a lot of hard time, all right, you know what? I'll do the job for 22,000. Well, that, in my experience, human nature does not respond well to that. They don't go, oh my gosh, I'm getting a $5,000 savings. It's my lucky day. What they think to themselves, they say that. At first they think that. They're like, oh, all right, cool. 20, that sounds much better, 22,000. But what happens is now they the entire rest of the project, they're like, well, I wonder if I could have got it for 20,000. I wonder if I could have got it for 18,000. And now they've lost the respect for you as a professional. You don't know what you're doing. You've just arbitrarily taken money off. That is a very bad precedent. The rest of that project is unlikely to go smoothly. I've learned this lesson the hard way many times. Too often, or in the early stages, let's say this. Let's not even say that you lower the price. You get the job for $27,000. And then the client asks you to do something extra or mention something, or you mention something and you do some extra work, right? Which I think is a good practice to do. It's a horrible practice to do extra work early on in the project. Very, very dangerous. I wish every one of you could just burn this into your brain. Don't do extra free work early in a project. Don't do it I would not do it until the project is complete or very, very near and you have a large portion of the payment, right? Because what happens is there's some human psychology that goes crazy with your client. When you just give them something, right, for nothing, they don't appreciate it. They honestly don't. The human brain doesn't. You could give them $1,000, add an extra room to the project, right? Say you want to, it's a $40,000 project and you want to add $1,000 paint job someplace on the project. If you do that early on in the project, it will come back to haunt you. It will be the most expensive $1,000 you've ever given away. Because something about giving people extras or free things in the early stages of a project a contract that you've already signed, it erodes trust. It makes them feel entitled. They're just going to keep scratching it more. They're never going to want enough. They're never going to value that $1,000 for what it was, $1,000 worth of value. So I wish I knew this a long time ago. But it's much better to say you know you want to give them a $1,000 upgrade. Okay, wait till the last day of the project or the second to last day of the project. And right before you finish, say, Mrs. Jones, this project has gone so amazingly. You have been great clients. We are ahead of schedule. And to be nice, to show you how much we appreciate having great clients, we're going to paint this extra room for you free of charge. That looks so much different. That's like, oh my gosh, the client's like, yeah, right? They feel so good about that. I painted a mailbox for a client. Perfect example. We finished the project. I had the final payment in my hand. I'd been dying to paint this mailbox the whole time. And then we had more work to do for them in the future. And there was potentially more work tied to that mailbox with the fence and stuff. At that point, I was like, can I please take your mailbox and paint it for you? You guys have been amazing. I want to give this back to you as my gift, right? That is a very powerful way to get client loyalty. But if the third day on that project, I'm trying to get in the good graces of them, which is what we're trying to do when we do this. I'm trying to get in the good graces of the client. I'm going to take that mailbox on the third day I'm on that project and bring it back and paint the whole thing and deliver it. I'm going to be so let down. At a minimum, I'm going to be let down by their reaction or lack of reaction, their sense of entitlement. Think about this. If somebody just gives you something for free in the middle, you're like, I didn't ask for this. There's no appreciation. It's not human nature. So again, I love going above and beyond and adding extra value to a client. But again, I would never do it till the end. What happens if the project goes wrong, right? And you lose a bunch of money. If things have gone wrong, the client has been difficult and it's not been a profitable project. You don't want to then turn around and give them $1,000 upgrade, right? But if you do it in the beginning, you don't even know if it's a profitable project yet. And it's not going to elevate the client's perception of you. not the way that we think it's going to when we do it. I miss a lot of good comments. Yeah, so and you want it to be able to leverage that. Speaking of that, I don't have my earbuds in. I hope my audio is okay tonight. I should probably put them on. Oh, it's too late now. I forgot about my earbuds. Someone just mentioned earbuds. My mom makes a great point. They might think, wow, I'm really overpaying for this if he can afford to give me this extra paint job for nothing, right? Because you don't even have the ability to say, oh, you know what, the project went what we estimated it went much faster than we thought. So we want to show you good faith, right? But if the project just started, you can't even say that. It's just like, oh man, I got this project for so much freaking money. Now I'm just going to throw free stuff on because I took them to the cleaners with this estimate. There's some part of their brain that's going to think that. Whatever it is, I can tell you they're not going to... The expected value that you are giving, when you give that to someone, you're expecting them to be appreciative. You're expecting them to talk well about you to people. You're expecting them to be very thankful. They won't be. That has not been my experience. It's just something about human nature. So be careful. I have a new question here. Here's a good question from the Beach Goth, another ZKFS alumni. Gauge on the gun. Do you take notes for coding duplication? Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a key piece. We want to have as much data, as much objective information as possible when we're spraying or brushing, when we're applying coatings, when we're going to work. How about that? When we're just going to work every day, we want to have them as much objective information as possible. We don't want to be living in the subjective. We don't want to be guessing. We don't want to be showing up without predictable results, right? We want to minimize activities that we're going to do where we don't know the outcome. And so anything we can do to predictably achieve an outcome, we want to do. And one of the things we can very easily do is measure air pressure and fluid pressure when we're spraying. Those are things that take very little time and cost very little money to record. But the key piece to this is objective data. Too often in the paint industry, subjective data is what is used, or anecdotal evidence, right? What do you mean? I did this one time and it worked out great. Okay, my first retort to that would be, how do you know it worked out great? How are we defining it worked out great, right? If it worked out great means it looked good the day the paint dried and I got a check and I never got a phone call, that is not evidence that something worked out great. I think way too often in our industry, when things go wrong, especially if it goes wrong a year or two later, we don't get the phone call. So we don't have very good data. If you've not gone back and touched base with that client about that caulking that you used that you said worked out so good, if you never went back and looked at the caulking 3, 4, 5 years later, you can't tell me that caulking works really well. You don't have any objective data to back up your claim of this caulking works really well, right? But way too often we go, I looked at it. I applied the caulking. Oh, it was so easy. It went on, looked so good when I finished. And I never got a call back from the client. So that caulking worked. I would strongly urge everyone to stop thinking like that. That is something I've seen in our industry that is not a helpful mentality. Because a lot of what we're doing is we're doing things in hopes that they will last. Right? Stand the test of time. So the only real measure is, did you go back and look at it years later? And oftentimes, clients don't call you back when things go wrong years later. They call another painter. And so just because the absence of a phone call saying something went wrong is not evidence that nothing went wrong. Boom. Drop the mic, Zach. Yes, and Phil makes a point. Like, you don't just go, well, last time I sprayed it at 34 PSI, so I'm only spraying it at 34 PSI. No, it's where you start, and then we have a process of dialing in our gun that we went through at ZK Finishing School. And when you dial in your gun and you have a baseline to work off of, now it goes much faster to dial that gun in. So they are not like the Bible, and we do not change our numbers because one time in the past I sprayed and I got good results like that. Like, it is much more of a, we're going to get more data, more objective data. We're going to spray, see what our spray pattern looks like, and then we're going to go from there. Because, yeah, there's a lot of variables that can change. This is a good question. Hey, how come it didn't come up? I just touched it. Mickey the Painter. Have you ever thought of having 2 companies/teams? Or will that will do cheaper jobs and the other just doing the high-end jobs? Yes. I have thought about that. There's a good chance that ZK Painting in 10 years from now will not be doing only gloss ultra high-end painting. There's a good chance that we will be doing mid to high level residential repaints using domestic products and giving great customer service, giving great paint jobs at a more reduced, more cost-effective price than what we do today. There is a good chance that happens. But I don't think it's going to happen very soon. We have plenty of work at the ultra high level we are right now. We're not suffering there. And I sure can't handle more painters right now. We don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to have a 20-man team, even if I had the work at the high end or a mixture of the two. So it's not in the cards for the short term, but definitely the long game, like the model that we've seen with my colleagues and other entrepreneurs that I look up to, successful paint contractors, most of them are doing a hybrid. Because we will have developed the ZK name and the reputation will be at a level, we can then dial back the execution to meet people's expectations. So we still are going to make them very, very happy, but we might do projects where they have a lower expectation of quality, depending on of aesthetics and durability. That might be lower, but we still might, and we can still serve them well at a lower price point. But you coming with our reputation and our customer service experience offer a ton of value. That is not going to happen anytime soon, but that doesn't mean it's never going to happen, and it probably will happen. That's because the hard part is building a company that can do multiple high-end jobs at the same time with predictable results, right? And that's what I'm building. I'm working really hard to build a company that can do that. And once we have 8 people just crushing, and we have work orders on point, we have SOPs on point, it's like clockwork, and we're crushing high-end custom jobs. And it's running like a Swiss watch. I can then take the formula that got me there, and I can change the SOPs to be less rigorous and offer great value, and I can scale. But I can't scale until we have great processes, not just for the painting, but the operations side. Dan made a funny joke. How are my walls? They looked and smelled good when I left the house. That's not the standard. And Phil made a good point too. Every 3 months we're painting in a different environment in New England. So brushing oil in March is different than in August. And that's where we need to have core concepts of how are we applying things and what are the variables that we control and how does varying those variables change the outcome, right? So we need to understand the concepts of what we are doing so that when things change, we know what variables to change to adapt to our conditions. And that's when I talk about concepts at ZKFS, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I think Mickey said, I believe you'll be more successful if you do the hybrid. When we get our operations side running smoothly, I think you're right. I think there's no question that we will be more profitable with a hybrid model. But I think that it's definitely more effective to only do what we do now to get there, right? If we were doing 2 different types of projects right now as we tried to get our systems honed in, it's going to slow down our development of those systems, right? If we're not doing the same thing all the time, it's going to be harder to get our processes down. But if we can focus on doing a few things really well, that keeps things simple. We can build around simple. As complex as high end is, at least it's only high end all the time. If I then went to my team and was like, hey, on this one, guys, I need you to use all these different products that we haven't used in a while. I need you to lower your standards down just a little bit, but I need you to lower them. And like that adds so much complexity that right now the piece I'm trying to get rid of is complexity. We're trying to simplify things to get predictable results. I'm trying to spend time and energy on building systems to simplify the operations side. So I'm convinced that staying in our lane is going to help us get there faster. And then once we have that, we can then add multiple lanes, right? Because we already know we have one lane that works well. We can change the SOPs and that lane will work really well. But you know, and then the other thing that comes with that is when we have the reputation that we are building and as we continue to build it and our name becomes synonymous with the highest level finishing that there is in New England, now that we get into residential repaints where the client doesn't have huge high standards of execution, but they want very reputable people. So now we can command a premium at the middle end, right? The not ultra high end, the high end or middle to high end tier. We will command a premium price. We will win jobs doing a basic interior repaint at 30% higher than everybody else because of our reputation, because we do the crazy gloss stuff. And there's going to be, the brand will carry a cachet, and we will have brand awareness that will allow us to make higher margins on already higher margin painting. So that is my rationalization for why we don't do it. I could be completely baseless, because let me tell you, I like that rationalization. It's way, like John said, it's more fun to do the high end stuff for me. It's what gets me going when we are doing these super amazing projects with creative designers and doing awesome stuff. That gets me going. So I'm probably also looking for ways to rationalize why I want to keep doing that. But I also think that it's not an unfair rationalization. It's a truth. And I'm not a manufacturing plant that can just like throw in a new piece into my line, right? I'm a custom one-off right now, and I'm working to build that into a manufacturing plant where I can then add new lines pretty easily. But that's just sort of my take on it right now. Yeah, like John said, the high end gives you an edge for selling. Build a reputation, then do whatever you want. That is what I've experienced from my mentors and the people in the business I look up to, is you build that reputation as the gold standard, the Rolls Royce. And then you can do other work at a premium, and it will be easier to do, and it won't be sacrificing anything. Let's see. This is a great question. Mikey from Wet Paint says, how do you deal with an old client that was familiar with an older price point? Do you clarify that your typical scope of work is much different now? Yeah, man. Like in my experience, like we don't work. Our clients 3 or 4 years ago are not our clients today. That's just the reality of the market that I'm serving and our competitive advantages. They line up to perfectly serve a certain type of client. And most of my clients 4 years ago were not that same client. And so we had a great relationship. We had a win-win. We did a project they were happy with. I collected a check, but I don't owe them anything, right? They're not my family. I'm not stuck with them, right? You choose your friends. You don't choose your family. And I don't believe I owe them anything. I don't need to give them like the old pricing. I've heard people say that stuff, but I don't believe that. I believe that massively hurts my people more than anything. Like, it's not fair to the people in my company for me to go out and give low prices to old clients. That's just, I'm sorry, but that's not, I don't think that makes sense. And I think the relationship, as much as it was a relationship, and they are clients, not customers, and it was about building a relationship, but relationships come to an end at some point. And so if what we do well no longer matches up with what my client wants, then I don't owe them anything, and we're moving on. And at the end of the day, my clients 4 years ago, they got the best deal going. They got a company that was young, hungry. Those people who got those $1,200 gloss doors that still look amazing. That guy, first of all, he's not calling me to go, give me another $1,200 gloss door, right? The good ones aren't, right? If he did want, but he knows, those types of clients, they saw where I was going. They saw that they were getting a deal today because they saw that, like, that's not a company that we're going to hire in 5 years. The trajectory I was on and where we are today and the value that we add, we don't line up with what they value, right? So just because I had an old client doesn't mean I need to give them to be the old me. And so if the new me doesn't line up with that client, then, hey, I wish you the best of luck. And I really appreciate everything that, like, our relationship up until now. It's been awesome. And I wish you the best. No hard feelings. Let's see. Oh, this is a fun question. Paint finisher. What changed now that your booth is air fed? Better now. What's now better versus having extraction only? It's so much better, man. I can't even tell you. It is so much better. So what we talked about before. So timeline, we get things in and out much faster, right? Because if it's 30 degrees outside, right now, I fire up that booth, I dial in the air temperature to 75 degrees or 85 degrees or whatever I want to spray at. We're generally 75, 80 degrees. We'll be 75 degrees and we'll be spraying all of our stuff at 75 degrees. So doesn't matter what it's like outside. Our finishes will turn out exactly the same as they always do, right? Because the air temperature is the same as it's always been. When I had the no air makeup unit, we had days where it was 20 degrees outside and we were running 16,000 CFM through the shop. The air is definitely not getting up the temperature. And I have cold air going across my substrate, and we had paint issues. We had paint failures. Definitely things took way longer to dry. So definitely just like predictability, speed. We can bake finishes. We did 3 coats of conversion varnish in one day on 2 sides of things. You can't do that without air makeup. Like, we're baking it at 125 for 20 minutes between coats, coats on per side, right? Dan said if the booth had a shower in it, he would live there. There's a shower upstairs at the shop, so you can live at the shop. And the trailer is large enough you could put a bed in there, but luckily we don't have to do that. So I think the first thing is predictability and using it. We don't care what the weather's like outside. We're going to have the same results. I have a swamp cooler up there too. So if it's 110 degrees outside, we can run the swamp cooler and we can drop the air temperature down to, I don't know, 90, 100, at 90, whatever. We can drop it. It's not an air conditioner, but it cools the air coming into the booth in the summer. So we're able to get a more consistent range of temperatures to spray at. And then our dust, it cuts down on the dust in the booth as well, because we're able to run the booth with a positive air pressure instead of a negative. So we are blowing filtered air in, and it's subtly moving its way out of the booth through the little cracks and through the filters. Whereas before, we were sucking air through, it was coming through filtered walls, but also it was sucking in through all the little crevices everywhere. So we definitely have a dramatically less dust in the booth with an air makeup unit. It depends on the product. We don't heat a ton of our material as of right now, but we are definitely going to be doing a lot of tests, and I'm looking to heat our material more, again, for dry times, and for less thinning and for laying out. But I'm definitely excited to heat more materials and do some A/B testing. But yeah, at 80 degrees, again, that can take some of that away. It's a huge advantage. I wish I could have afforded it sooner. Let's see, we have more questions coming in. All right. Lopez Felix, how do you recommend someone give estimates/bids with no license? Can't get my license for another year due to California licensing rules. Man, I don't know a lot about that. But I can tell you one thing: you're not going to get what you should be getting. You're not going to find ideal clients. My ideal clients would never hire a contractor that didn't have a license. The best clients will never hire a contractor that doesn't have a license. You are going to... I'm not in California. And so I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know what I'm talking about here exactly. But I would look to work for somebody else until I got my license. Or get by and don't expect to get all your final payments. Don't expect to get great clients. Don't expect to make a lot of money. I mean, you are an illegitimate operation. You're not going to command. You shouldn't be a profitable endeavor. Yeah, like, man, just if it's a means to an end. I did stuff like this. I didn't know I needed insurance. The first time I got busted for no insurance, I had insurance, but I didn't know I needed a contractor's license. I have like a thing on my license. I didn't know you needed one. In the very, very, very beginning, I was just a dude in a car with a paintbrush. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I can empathize with not being above board completely. And if it's a means to an end and you are over delivering, I'm not going to tell you stop. But what I will tell you is don't expect awesome things until you are licensed and you're above board. It's like being a drug dealer. There's a huge cap to how you can ever live if you're breaking the law to make your money, right? You can get by, and you can get by for a while. But if you were legit, you could get by for a lot longer, a lot better. And so I would just say, don't expect a ton. Bide your time and be safe. Be careful. That's all I can say. But try to find a partner to partner up with until you have one. Level 10 Painting said, what brand anti-static wipes do you recommend? Does it make a difference with high gloss? It makes a huge difference with high gloss. We have done an A/B test. We have wiped with anti-static, and we've wiped with a tack cloth only, and we saw a difference. And the only anti-static rags that we've ever used successfully, I think we might have tried this like something from Staples one time out of desperation, but the only anti-static rags that we've ever used are the DeVilbiss ones. Mike from Wet Point said he's never seen a licensed drug dealer. Yeah, there's a sacrifice from not being above board. Okay, this is a good question. Carrera Custom Finishes. I'm going to keep every question I'm going to say. This is a good question right before I say it. All right, hold on. We got to go back. All right. Felix said, you need 4 years in experience to get your license in California. I only have 3 in the trade. Dude, go work for somebody. Stop trying to work for yourself. I think that you'd be a 1 in a million. If you are truly a 1 in a million entrepreneur, okay, man, keep down the path. If you think it's in your blood to command top dollar and build an organization, and nothing's going to stop you, okay. But if you are just aren't very good at showing up at the right time and listening to a boss and being a predictable, good employee, man, go get better at those things. If you only have 3 years painting experience and you're trying to start your company, trying to start your own company, man, I don't think the odds are in your favor. I just don't. I get it. But, dude, you got to put the work in. You got to go get way better than the top guys at your company that you were working for. Maybe you didn't work for a good company. That's probably I'm hoping that's what sent you off on your own, is you worked for people who were not very professional and didn't inspire you to want to learn and keep learning. Because in 3 years, I just don't believe that you can learn in 3 years what it takes to run a successful business. I don't. And there are definitely a handful of exceptions to the rule, but those are business people. Those are people who worked for college pro painters, right? That is all business. They don't know anything about painting. They spent 3 years learning a business. They went to business school, and they're going to run a business that happens to be a painting business. Those are the only people I've ever seen with minimal amount of paint training. I might be 1 or 2 other exceptions. But dude, you're going to make, again, I think this is exactly what we talked about, right? You can cap out. It's like the drug dealer. You might be able to make a little bit more money in the short term going out on your own with 3 years experience. Maybe. Arguably, no. If you look at go look at your hours worked. Honestly, write down every hour you spend working on your business, not just painting. Every hour you spend thinking about your business. Total up how much revenue you did minus all expenses, and I guarantee you make less money per hour than if you go work for John at paint school. You will make more money working for somebody, a legit company, than you ever will doing it alone with 3 years experience. Man, I see this too often. I think it's our industry letting people down. It's not enough well-run painting companies who are giving people opportunity and professionalism and pride and a ladder to climb and a good place to come to work, right? If that's what you have and you look at that and you're like, I can do it better than my boss, fine. Go start your paint company. But if you're just painting and some guy doesn't know crap and he's running a horrible organization and he's screaming at you every day and your checks aren't, your cash that he's paying you is not coming in on time and he owes you 3 weeks pay. And if that's what's happening, don't go start your own company. Just go find a real company to work for. I get like a visceral feeling of like, I know you think you're making more money by going out on your own. I know you think you have more freedom going out on your own, but you don't. You are bound. You are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week bound to your company, to your existence. Your food in your mouth is 100% dependent on you going and getting it. That is not freedom. Showing up 40 hours a week, making great money, and then having true freedom for the other hours, that's freedom. And that's awesome. And I think too often people rush to start paint companies. You're not starting paint companies. We're working for ourselves. We're rushing to go work for ourselves. That's not starting a company. There's a huge difference. So it might sound cool to say I started a paint company, I'm a business owner, but 95% of people who say that are full of crap. I was for a long time. I kind of still am, man. I don't run a paint company. I'm building a painting company, but I don't have one. I can't sell my company today for any multiples of revenue. I do not have a company that can be sold tomorrow. And until you have that, I don't think you're a business owner. You're a dude working for yourself. And you need to look at that honestly. And I think the key piece to this is people have not experienced there's just not a lot of well-run painting companies. And so you go work for John from paint school. I bet you his guys aren't trying to run out and start their own companies because they see they have predictable income that comes in all the time. They come to work, they give it 100% in a positive professional environment. They make a good paycheck, and then they go home and they don't have to think about work till Monday. Man, be careful. Be careful thinking that you can start a paint company with 3 years painting experience. Oh man, I would eat you alive. You're going to get so, I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit here. Guys like me that are established, even the more established, guys like John, we're going to eat you alive, dude. I would argue the only jobs you're going to get are the jobs where the client's looking to take advantage of you. The client wants the cheapest price. You're going to be that guy that just moves his price out of nowhere. Because guess what? You got to eat this week, right? I've been there. We've been there. That is not the way you want to start a painting company. If I could have started all over, I would have worked for my boss for 3 more years, saved up 20 grand, then started a painting company. I would be so much farther along than I am today. Starting the way I started out hurt me a lot. And I'm a very talented, very motivated person. And I got here despite what I was doing, not because of most of what I did for the first 5 years. Most of what I did for the first 5 years, it held me back. I would be farther along had I waited and worked but again, I didn't know John. I didn't know paint companies that were run well. I probably wasn't a good hire for them. That's why. Because I wasn't trying to be a good painter. Dude, go apply to legit companies. Start at the bottom. Grind. Don't think you're so freaking awesome. Don't think you deserve all this money. Shut up. Put in the effort. Learn. And subtly just be the guy that they just keep turning to that just keeps getting things done. Be that guy. And if you get to be that guy, now you're a foreman. You understand how to manage projects. You understand all these things. You've seen your boss. Because when we work for guys in the beginning, we just think jobs just show up out of the blue. I used to just show up on Monday. We just go to a new job. Well, hey, how freaking the guys, my boss is never around. What the heck he's doing? He's probably off just playing golf. I had no idea how much work goes into that job being there on Monday for me. No freaking concept, right? Sure, not a concept of how hard it is to get that job and actually be a profitable company. It's one thing to go get that job for half the price of everybody else. That's easy. Everyone can go sell jobs based off of lowering their price. That is not what we're talking about. Because guess what? Now you're really not making any money. But we often look and we think, when you're working for someone, I could do this. This is easy enough. Dude, the easy part is the painting. Let's be real. I had no idea. I used to just show up on Monday. Where are we going today? So where are we going today, boss? Oh, we finished on Wednesday. Where are we going on Thursday, man?
And a new job would just show up. And I had no freaking concept. Oh, man, I was laughing about this the other day. I had no concept of what happened behind the scenes to make that job show up there on a Thursday. It is not easy. You can't do it overnight. It's not something that can just happen fast. It requires years of concentrated effort to get that job to come for Thursday. So I just don't think that, I'm sorry, I don't think there's very many people who are working for 3 years who can turn around and start a successful painting company. The ones who do it are not painters. They are business people. Period. Sorry, I got a little excited there. But I hope I can save somebody some heartache. True Color Painting says, have you ever been sued? If yes, what was it like? No, I have never been sued. I would love to have sued a few people. I'm contemplating suing somebody right now, actually. But I probably won't because it's under $10,000. And I just don't know, man. Sometimes I think... that's not the question. You don't care about that. No, I've never been sued. Thank God. But I could do a lot of things better. Sorry, there's not more. There's a bunch of stuff we could talk about there, but I'm not sure we want to go there. True Color Painting says, what new paint coating technology are you most excited about? I am most excited about Vero Metal, but you guys don't want to use Vero Metal, trust me. Selfishly, I don't want other people to use it, but no, I don't care. But it has a very high bar, higher than fine paints for sure. They wouldn't love me saying that, but I think it does have a higher bar than fine paints. It's a very expensive product to buy. It's not easy to work with. It's just, because what I mean is just very different, and but it's magical. And why I like it is no one else is doing it, man. Very few people are doing it and have the facilities and the operations to be able to do it. Like, you can't just do it tomorrow. It has a fairly high barrier to entry. It's not crazy, but I really am excited about the liquid metal products. John said he's been sued 3 times, and I've sued once. Not as scary as it seems, as long as you have protection. Again, if you're running a business and you have contracts and lawyers and documentation and you're running a business, then being sued isn't a big deal. But if you're a dude with 5 years painting experience who's been in business for 2 years, I mean, getting sued could mean the end of nothing. Could mean the end of nothing because you don't have anything. And so when we think about when I started like that, I didn't give a crap about being sued. I had nothing. What are you going to take from me? Right? But that's not the way to get... That's not best practice. Like, I know that people think, oh, the grass is greener. My freaking boss, what does he know? He's just making all this money. I go to work and I paint hard all day. I thought that. It's not the case. It's so much more. So, yeah, man. I hope everything works out if you're getting sued. Another one, True Color said, what are your thoughts on rust neutralizing inhibiting coatings for future work on bridges, etc., on repairing our infrastructure? Oh, man, I don't have thoughts on that stuff. I just don't spend any time thinking about industrial coatings like that. I'm trying to think about coatings that will help differentiate me in my market, who will help make my ideal clients happier, give them better results. If I can make all I think about is my ideal clients, that's it. Who is my ideal client and what do they value? And that's all I'm thinking about. AG Professional Painting said, what about builders, general contractors at the high-end level? What about them, man? I don't really know what this question's asking. What about them? There's lots of things about them. The really good ones, they're not even going to call you until you have an established reputation. And there's very few really good ones, first of all. If you're in New York City, well, that's a scary market. I'm not going to talk about New York City. Even if you're in a major metropolitan area, there's probably still only going to be 5, maybe 10 high-end, truly high-end builders, general contractors that are going to be good, really good, that you're going to want to really work for. And those contractors aren't going to give a crap about you until they've heard about you enough times. Or you've pestered them on social media and then they've heard about you a bunch of times. But the really, at least in my market, the really elite builders, so let's start. What makes a good general contractor is their sub network, right? And their ability to run a project. What makes an average general contractor is their price point, right? But a really good general contractor has cultivated a group of subs over a long period of time to predictably deliver. That's a huge piece at the high end. To predictably deliver amazing results. That's what makes a good high-end GC, not price. It's about predictably delivering great results. So if I'm these GCs, none of them are new companies. I mean, the couple of the younger companies I know were offshoots of other companies, people from high up in other companies who started them. So they had some credibility. But these ultra high-end GCs, they take a long time to get in with. And when they find that they're professionals, they're not grinding. They're going to cut you good checks because they have found good people. They pay their people well, their subs well. They take good care of those subs. So in turn, their subs take good care of them. So a good GC, I'm going to bend over backwards for a good GC because they pay me on time. They do the right thing. They're not trying to screw me. I can trust the relationship to be a give and a take, right? Because trust is what all business is founded on, right? Trust. And at this ultra high end, it's all about trust, right? If Kirby Perkins is going to build a $20 million house, could somebody else have done it for 15 and somebody else done it for 12? Of course. If the client was looking for the cheapest price, he's not hiring Kirby Perkins, this established high-end GC. They're hiring Kirby because they know they're going to get predictable results. And that's because so there's trust there. So if I'm a sub, the way I get in with one of these GCs is the long game, right? So first, the guy with 4 years painting experience, you start his paint company, you don't have a chance to deal with good clients. I'm sorry, this is the sad reality of starting a new business. If you're coming from there, you don't have a chance of getting good clients for a long time. You don't. You're going to have to navigate a minefield of all the worst clients that I don't want and all the other established companies don't want. So, and all the best clients have good painters already, right? Because good clients are good, right? A good client, I'm going to take care of. I'm going to go above and beyond for. I'm going to give them everything because they're a good client. They pay on time. They're reasonable. They're nice. They don't scream at me. So I'm going to want to give them everything I have because they're good. So in turn, they're not looking for another painter. So when I'm a new painter and I get a phone call from a GC, I'm like, dude, why in the world are you calling me? Because if you're good, where's your painter? And what the heck happened? That's the first thing we should all be thinking. And I wish I would have freaking known this. But we should all be thinking, and this is the same thing with clients. We should all be thinking, why are you calling me? How come you don't have a painter already? Did you just move here? Okay. Now there's a decent chance that you can be a good client if you've just moved to the state and you don't know anybody here. Did your old painter retire? All right, there's a good chance you could be a good client still. But there's only a few reasons that you could be a good client if I'm a new, unproven entity. Now, if I've developed a reputation that precedes me and it is based off of years of predictable results, now only then can I ever expect a legit client or a legit contractor to want to do business with me. And I think that is something I did not understand for a long time. It's about predictability. It's about like, dude, I've been going and producing paint jobs year after year to the best of my ability, always standing behind what I did, always showing up, always doing what I said. And I am a safe bet for Kirby Perkins or some other contractor to want to hire, right? I am not some new dude with a low price who they're going to be taking a gamble on. Kirby Perkins, we're going to use this. They're not looking to take gambles on anything on a $20 million new construction. That's not why the client hired him. So if you want to get in with the good GCs, it takes a long time and there better be a reason. Their painter used to do a really good job and you know what? They've got fat and happy. Maybe that happened. You know, the guy retired. You know, there's a few reasons that otherwise I'd be very careful when dealing with GCs. It's weird how I took that. Here's a good question. Decorative Desires. Oh, this is my favorite name. Every time I would be like, hello, this is Decorative Desires. I hope that's how you say your name on the phone. Decorative Desires says, thoughts on brand image. Is a logo important to you? Okay. All things being equal, yes, very important. It's important. Now, we have a very low bar in our industry, so it's not essential, right? You will see really good companies with really bad logos and bad branding that do well, but not because of their branding and their logos. So, yes, I think it is important to start with who is my ideal client, what do I do really special, and then how do I build a logo and a brand image that says those things? Or even if it doesn't say those things, how do I build a brand and a logo that doesn't contradict those things, right? If I do high quality, high end painting and I have a giant vehicle wrap with 14 bright colors and paint splashes on it, I look like a big commercial, like cheap, like I don't know, if I look like a franchise cheap kind of painter, like if I did my own logo up and it's big and bright and it's a wrap around my whole truck, and then I want to go into a multi-million-dollar house and park it in front of the house, does that contradict the professionalism that I'm trying to offer, right? I think that there is a lot to be said for your logo and your brand image not contradicting your brand, if nothing else. If possible, it elevates it, but you don't want it to contradict. Let's see, there's more new questions. Yeah, maybe we'll have a Rip. So anybody listen to one of my favorite podcasts called Rip King and the Sting, and they have this thing called Rip My Drip, and people send in pictures of themselves and then they make fun of them. It's really funny. Yeah, like Mickey said, some of the biggest painters here have names that don't even mention the word painting, I'm guessing. And that's it. Like, so there's going to be examples of companies who, despite their branding and messaging, have a great reputation and are really big. But it will be despite of. It's not because of, right? And oftentimes we have to separate those two. It's like, is it this logo that's really helping them, or was a bunch of other things? Gang, gang, buzz, buzz, my man. Dude, you're my new favorite person, N. McQuaid. I freaking love the King and the Sting. That's my guilty pleasure. When I need to like cut my brain off and not think about things while I'm driving, if I'm like maxed out on like nonfiction books or something, I'll put on the King and the Sting, and it just like makes my day. Those guys are hysterical. Theo Vaughn is like, he's over the top. But yeah, I mean, I think taking a step back and figuring out what your competitive advantages are, who your target market is, and how to talk to them is very important. Okay, so anyone in New England, Bob's Discount Furniture, Dan just brought this up, is a perfect example. So, if you look at Bob's Discount Furniture, it's in the name. They have like a cartoonish, cheap. You would call it cheap looking logo. It's a cheap, cartoony logo. It is not refined and high end and like precise, but it clearly demonstrates what they're all about. They're Bob's Discount Furniture. They are a low cost furniture option. They make money hand over fist. It's a great, well run business, and they offer a lot of value to people who don't want to pay a lot of money for furniture. But their logo doesn't say something other than that, and I think that's what I mean. Okay. OP Rudy said tips on getting jobs as a new company. Man, find some connections through your paint store, your old boss. Maybe you have a good relationship and he'll sub you work, or he'll give you work you can't handle. And then take great care of those clients and try to get a referral. And it is really hard. You have to work on your sales and marketing. You have to figure out what makes you good, and you need to start beating that drum of that right away. And social media is the place to do it. It'll cost you nothing. When you have nothing to do all day, while you're waiting for the phone to ring, start building your social media out. And that's why we have a sales and marketing course, because I think that there is a lot to be said for spending the time and then just grinding. If you have all the time in the world, I don't care if you have to go door to door. Go to the paint store, hang out. Whatever it is, if you want it enough, you'll get that job, and then it'll lead to the next one and the next one. But it's not easy. What did I say? I just saw one I was going to put up. Okay, here's a good one. Paint Finisher says, have you tried Renner? If so, tell us how it compares to every other product. So Paint Finisher does not follow my posts really well, and he does not read every single word in every single one of my captions. So I'm really, really let down today. No, obviously people have lots of things to do, so you're not going to read everything. Yes, we have used Renner. It is our preferred 2K poly over all the rest. All of its characteristics, we like it over Ilva and we like it over Malaysia. Those are the two that we've used, the water-based 2Ks. And if I'm going with one, it's Renner all day. It was easier to apply. It dried a little bit faster. It sanded really nice. We had great results with it. So I have nothing but good things to say about Renner. I don't get written referrals from all my clients. I could do a much better job of that back end operation stuff, of communicating with my clients on a regular basis, talking to old clients, all that stuff. I could do a much better job, but because it's huge. It's huge. Somebody said, my buddy from King and the Sting fandom is saying, looking to build a mobile spray booth, live in Canada, need to be temperature controlled. Can you recommend someone to contact in regards to building specs? A mobile spray booth. RGI Spray Booths is my guy, Napoleon. He's awesome. I just talked to him last week. Great dude. Talk to RGI. They're on Instagram. Let's see. Paint Finisher says, can you go high gloss with Renner? Yeah, you can. I think so. The water-based glosses, though, they leave something to be desired. For sure. I would try to steer clients away from gloss in water-based and just say, like, why don't we just go with satin? If you, like, I don't know, it depends on the client, but if I sprayed out an oil gloss panel and a water-based 2K at the same sheen, 100 sheen water 2K water base, it's going to look kind of plasticky. It's going to feel a little different. It's just not the same as oil enamel aesthetically. So, yeah, you can do it, but it doesn't have the richness of an oil enamel. The depth, there's something about it, man. It's good, but it can be kind of plasticky. I know Nick May has a 20-foot enclosed trailers that he sprays cabinet doors on site out in front of the house in the trailer. You could set up a trailer. I know the guy who started Fast Rack, Mike, used to do that. And you get an air mover and a heater and a couple filters, and you could set up a 20-foot enclosed trailer, assuming you're not in the city, and you could pull a 20-foot enclosed trailer easily. You could set up a trailer on site to do it. But depends. I would be weary as to how much time it's saving versus just taking them off and bringing them to your actual shop. But I'm not sure. Let's see. Here's an interesting question. Mickey the Painter. What do you think about some painters on Instagram that are jealous of your success in life and your success on Instagram? This is a great question because we all face jealousy, right? The first reaction if I see somebody that's doing awesome, and there's a very easy reaction to to feel a pang of jealousy and go, fuck them, and I wouldn't even want that. What they're doing is not what I want. That's stupid, right? But then if I take an extra step back and I'm like, well, if I'm really honest with myself, I'm actually making excuses up to not want what they have because I'm just jealous and I'm afraid I'll never get there, right? I definitely have that. I've had that. And I still continue to have that, and I have to fight that. I think we all have to fight that. We all have to fight jealousy on some level. When we see someone doing really well, there's oftentimes there's a feeling of and most of the time in my experience, it's when there's a big, big disparity in where I am and where they are. If there's someone like 1 or 2 steps ahead of me, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. I want to get there. But when you see somebody like way higher than you, you're like, because it seems impossible to get there, you're like, fuck them. They suck. Or I don't want, right? I know I'm definitely guilty of that. I think it's the human condition, to be honest. So what I would say to those people is, first of all, I'm just another person. I'm just a human trying my best every day. And I'm not special. And I don't hopefully you can, any of those people, and we can all, and anytime we feel this jealousy, is take one step past the jealousy or one step back to see the jealousy and go, it's really what do I really want in life? And the more you can focus on what do I really want in life, what do I truly want? Not what are the things I've told myself I want because they're easier to achieve. And I'm too afraid to set higher goals than this, right? Because I think I've been guilty of that. Of if you bring the bar down low enough and you say, well, I wouldn't want that, right? Because I've done that because it makes me feel too less than because I'm not there yet. So what I would say is for me, I try to combat that by going, how do I get better today? How can I be better tomorrow than I was today? And how can I focus on me and just me getting a little bit better? And hopefully I can look at someone's extreme success and instead of being like, screw that, I never want that, that's so far away from me. Instead, I try to look at people with extreme success. And I do not have extreme success, so I'm not saying that I think I have that. But instead it's going like, what are the key little pieces that I could maybe implement into my life that person is doing? I've done that. Hundreds of hours spent studying successful people and trying to emulate little things about them. So, okay, so if you're saying someone's jealous of me and my life and my success on Instagram, I don't think I'm that awesome. I've had some success. I'm not going to act like I haven't, but I'm sure, I'm not the greatest thing in the world. But you could look at what I've done and listen to what I've said. And it's like, well, I read a lot of books. I try and fail at a lot of things, and then I quickly adapt and try again. I try to be really humble and open-minded. I try to look at my mistakes and own my mistakes. I go to therapy and I work on myself because I'm working to be able to sit with myself and be okay and happy in my own skin because I was not born that way, or at some point I became not that way. So if you want to look at me and try to emulate my success, instead of being jealous, try to emulate some of the things I've done that have helped me get better. And I would say those things are continuous improvement. Really, it just comes down to continuous improvement. So I have worked really hard to continuously get a little bit better each day. And when I try really hard not to judge myself and not to like throw the baby out with the bathwater and say like, oh, screw it, I quit. We all have those moments, but what do you think? What I think about people who are jealous is take a step back, and it's an easier reaction to have than how do I get better? Jealousy comes first. The most important thing after is like, what am I doing that I could get better at? What am I doing that I don't like? And how do I step that up a little bit? Because it's really easy to point fingers at people, and it's really hard to change what's going on inside of me. But therapy is a proven way to change what's going on inside of me. And if I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers, that's okay. Like, it's okay to not know everything. In fact, it's liberating. And for a long time, I thought I had to have all the answers. And as soon as I stopped thinking I had to have all the answers, life becomes so much easier. But I'm talking about stuff that's... Let me answer some paint questions. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like they're all interested. I have thoughts on Krakow versus Kremlin. But yeah, I think it really comes down to like figuring out what do you want. Oh, this is a great question. Mickey, I love Mickey because he gets to the heart of issues. He doesn't dance around. Okay. I'm going to talk. And I'm sorry. Any of you guys who came here to listen about paint, for a minute, we're going to talk about substance abuse and substance use. And bear with me. So Mickey said, do you think giving up alcohol has made you a better person? Do you still sometimes crave a beer? There is, without a doubt, giving up alcohol and all mind and mood-altering drugs, not just alcohol, but giving up all mind and mood-altering substances and developing a program of recovery, but let's just say the other one, was by far the best thing I've ever done in my life. By far. If you would have seen this guy 6 years ago when I was smoking pot every single day and drinking, a couple beers probably every single day or most days, and like every weekend, sure, like it was not like, am I going to drink? It was like, what am I going to drink and where am I going to drink it? Right? That was my life for probably 18 to 29, 28 or whatever, however old I was when I got clean. 30 maybe? Almost 30. It wasn't about what or will I, it was about how much and what and where. So yes, and so by stopping coating my brain with outside things, and in the beginning, did I crave? 100%. When you are using all the time and you stop using, your brain does not make the right chemicals. You've been taking exogenous chemicals, putting them into your body. So when you stop doing that, your brain has not been making its own. So when you stop, you feel depressed, you feel low, you're shitty, and you're like, dude, not drinking sucks. Right? That's how we think. Because it does suck. When you first stop using, it sucks. But guess what? You've been falsely living awesome by taking all these outside chemicals and putting them on your brain that you should have to pay the consequences at some point. And there should be a withdrawal period. And it should hurt. But what we don't recognize when we're in that is just on the other side of that is the brain renormalizes. We make chemicals normally in our brain again. And we don't feel depressed and shitty while not drinking. That happens shortly after. So I'm here to tell anyone who is using a lot and struggling with using and who tries to stop for a couple days and feels shitty, that's not what it's like in perpetuity. That's because your brain does not know how to make its own chemicals. And that if you were to develop a program of recovery and to continually stop using outside substances for a long enough period of time, your brain will renormalize, and having a conversation with your family and playing a board game will be just as fun as going to the bar. I know that sounds insane. When you're using, that sounds insane. But I promise, the brain goes back to normal. And then you start to be the same person every day. And you're no longer up and down and up and down and up and down. You start to be steady Eddie. And now when you're steady Eddie and you go to work and you work hard at life, your work starts to compound. And your happiness starts to compound. And your life begins to build. Instead of just like treading water. That's what using is like. You're just treading water. You're working so freaking hard just to stay afloat. Stop with all that stuff. Find a program of recovery and you can start to add to your life. It is a magical thing. And I know it seems impossible when you're in it. Don't try to do it alone. There's help out there. There's programs. You can do it. Don't try to do it alone. Don't act like you have... I can't act like I have all the answers. Right? There's a huge relief that comes from saying, I don't have all the answers. I give up. I tried to the best of my ability, and I'm not where I want to be. If you're not where you want to be, and you've worked your whole life as hard as you can, guess what? Maybe you don't know how to do it alone. That's okay. Man, this has turned into a whole nother kind of show. Here's back to painting. I didn't read this one. John said, do you ever move your desk into the booth to get away from the cold? Oh, man. Absolutely. No. We have heat in the shop. Luckily, I didn't smoke cigarettes. Thank God. I smoked them for a little bit and was able to get away from them and never developed an addiction to cigarettes. I'm so grateful for that. But all of the same principles of recovery can be applied to any addiction. And nicotine addiction is another one. Someone said don't wind up in prison. Addiction ends up in jails, institutions, death, or dereliction. You got 4 options when you're an addict if you don't get clean. Jails, institutions, death, or dereliction. None of those is success and a happy family and emotionally stable children and spouse and family members. None of those things happen from addiction, in active addiction. And the sad part is we work our butts off. So freaking hard we work trying to keep everything afloat so we can keep using, right? No, I love coffee, but I'm not addicted to coffee because coffee doesn't cause me negative side effects. Addiction is defined by doing things in the face of negative consequences. If you are drinking every day and it's causing negative consequences, i.e., you're not emotionally present for your spouse, you're unhealthy, you're spending too much money, if it's got negative consequences and you keep doing it, that's addiction. You can be physically dependent on caffeine, but not be addicted, because if there's not negative consequences, if you're using your last dollar To buy coffee, yeah, dude, that's addiction. But there's a difference between addiction and physical dependence. Marijuana withdrawal is the longest, hardest withdrawal there is. Not, I don't want to say the hardest, is the longest withdrawal there is. It took me almost 6 months to finish with, like, to start having regular sleep. So when you stop, if you smoke pot all the time and you stop, you will not sleep well for months, generally. It's really tough. Someone said, I can't sleep without my herbs. Man, I get it. But, and if you're casually using drugs and it causes no repercussions in your life, great. I find that very hard to believe for most people. I think oftentimes we just justify and whatever. And if you ever put your drugs ahead of things that mean more to you in a conversation, your family, your work, like, if the drugs come first, ever, man, I hope you can find some help. It changed my life. I would not be here clear-minded without any guilt or like I get to just sit here and riff with you guys for hours because I'm not hiding who I am anymore. I'm not coding who I am in substances. I didn't start this podcast 2 beers in and end in 9 beers in and be a completely different human being. I get to be the same guy every day, all the time. That is unbelievable. I'm so grateful for that because I did not know that it was even a thing to be. That was not a thing I even knew to strive for. Good to hear it, man. I'm glad to hear you're clean. It just keeps getting better, man. It just keeps getting better. The Power of Habit is a great book. But in my experience, you cannot kick addiction alone. Don't try it. Just like therapy, you need multiple humans. Mickey the Painter said, how many seltzers do you have a day? Is that an addiction? Have you chosen one to use another one? No, again, I drink seltzer. There is no negative side effects to me drinking seltzer. It's no sugar. It's beautiful. If I couldn't afford seltzer and I would continue to do it instead of buying baby diapers for my child or something, that's addiction. Negative consequences. Using something a lot or even being dependent on something is not addiction. Addiction is doing things in the face of negative consequences. And I don't face any negative consequences by drinking this. It's water, carbonated water with some flavoring. So yeah, I drink a lot of it because I like it, but there's not negative consequences. That's the huge piece. I used to think addiction was using drugs. Using drugs and alcohol is not addiction. That is a symptom of addiction. This is a good question from John. If you could have started one thing a year ago, what would it be? It would have been work orders. It would have been work orders. That's what it would have been. It would have been a clear system of here is the paint colors, the paint products, here's the paint schedule, here is all of the relevant information, here's the scope of work. All of the relevant information, here it is on a piece of paper before you start the project. That would have saved me tens and tens of thousands of dollars this year. And it wouldn't have cost me much to do. So, that was the biggest mistake. That was the one thing I wish I could have done again. I'm not saying mistake. I didn't choose not to do it and it wasn't do that or do nothing. It was do other things or do that. And I should have prioritized it higher. I didn't, but it's not like I was doing nothing instead of doing it. But I definitely made a mistake. I definitely could have been more effective this year had I just done that. Yeah. Let's see. I think we're getting into here's another one. True Color Painting says, are you worried about your health in the long term being in this business? No, I'm not. Because I'm not trying to burn the candle on both ends. I'm not trying to sacrifice short term for the long term anymore. I'm not just trying to get by anymore. I'm trying to build sustainably over time for predictable results. I'm trying to be boring, slow, steady, methodical, moderate. And so, no, like I'm not worried about my health. I'm trying to get as healthy as possible every day. You know, I'm trying to keep the stress is down generally. I have tools and mechanisms to deal with stress that I didn't always have before. So I wouldn't say I'm worried about my health in the long term. But this week I'm scheduling my annual. After hearing Tim talk about his awesome experience with his checkup, I'm excited to get my annual physical. Someone asked this question. We said, "Oh, have you used a Graco Merker?" No, I have not used a Merker, but I've heard good things. Honestly, it's the gun that I think is most important, and I've said this before. And there's hands down the best air-assisted airless gun on the market is the Wagner 4700, GM 4700. Hands down the best air-assisted airless gun on the market. And I would go with that gun and then a pump that goes with it. And right now, Total Finishing Supplies has an awesome deal. If I was buying an air-assisted airless, that's the deal I would buy. That's the machine I would buy. How do you deal with employees and cell phones and texting? All right, so this is a tricky one because I want my team to be available by phone. I want them to be on their phones in Slack, writing stuff down. I want them to be taking pictures and posting on social media. So I can't say no cell phones on the job site, right? That's not a thing that we do. What I would say is if you have good people who want to get things done and you have clear motivations and clear expectations and a good working environment, then hopefully dealing with cell phones and texting shouldn't be an issue. If it becomes an issue with somebody, it needs to be brought up and addressed. But hopefully we have people who are trying to get things done. And so they set their own guidelines for not texting during work. But I think it's kind of a bigger picture as far as company culture and having the right people in place. Carrera Custom Finishes says, in the business, when times get rough, what do you do to keep you going? Okay. I allow myself to bitch and moan for a period of time, a short period of time. First off, nobody's perfect. No, you don't get to act like you're never going to feel upset. You're never going to feel anything. Like, we're going to feel emotions. We're human beings. So first thing is, I don't judge myself. I try really hard, I should say. I'm not perfect. I try really hard not to judge myself for my emotions in the moment. Now, the biggest piece is I try really hard not to act on emotions in the moment. This is the biggest part about being an adult, is feeling emotions but not acting on them, right? There is a time period from the time we feel an emotion to the time we do something where hopefully we wait, we cool off, we get back to the same level head we have every single day, right? We want to make all our decisions from the same emotional state. In a perfect world, we would be a computer, we would be rational, and we would make decisions from the same emotional state. So if I'm having a bad day or a bad series of events, it happens all the time. I talk to a couple of my buddies, contractors, we talk just about every day or a few times a week. And most of the time, one of us calls the other one on top of the world and the other guy's down at the bottom. And then the next time we'll call and it'll be like flipped, right? And you'll be like all in a bad mood and the other guy will be like on top of the world. And those things are all great. Those are all part of being a human. But I really try not to act from a state of extreme elation or extreme negativity, right? So when things get rough, what I do is I try to look at what are the things I can control. So rather than then focus. I try to spend the minimal amount of time humanly possible focusing on things I cannot control. Outcomes of things, right? Like in poker, if I have aces and you have 7 deuce and we go all in and the flop comes 7-7 deuce or 7-7 X and I lose that hand, right? The key to life is being incredibly happy and feel good that you got all your money in with pocket aces to 7 deuce. Because if you were to spend the rest of your life going all in pocket aces to 7 deuce, you'd be a millionaire. And so we need to focus on our decision making, not the outcome. The outcome over a long period of time is what's important. So when things are rough, I'm going to stop and try to go, okay, what can I control here? What is it that I can control here? And try to focus on those things. And when I do everything in my power to control with the things I can control to get the positive outcome, it allows me to take a breath and go, give it up to God, a higher power of something. Like, okay, I did everything I can do. Now let's see what the flop is. And if the flop comes out 7-7-2, hey man, I can't change that, but I can decide to go all in aces to deuces, aces to 7 deuce. And if I spend my life focusing on decision making and the things I can control, I will be okay. And honestly, that's really what I try to focus on is what can I control? What can I control? And am I doing those things to the best of my ability? This is a great question. Mickey the Painter says, have you ever thought, fuck it, why am I even wasting my time doing these lives? Of course. I think it every single time before I start. Every single time before I start, I'm like, I was just playing an awesome board game with my wife. We were having a blast. We just finished, we're playing Sherlock Holmes. We're such nerds. We're playing this game called Sherlock Holmes. You read all these, you read, you figure out, you go look for clues, you get more information, and you try to solve a crime at the end. It's the nerdiest thing two adult people can do. But it's really fun. We like to play it. So we just finished playing a game. And she's like, oh, you want to play another one? And I'm like, no, I have to go do a podcast. So, but that's life, man. I've made a commitment that I'm going to do 2 podcasts a week. I'm going to do a Sunday night Q&A and I'm going to do a Tuesday interview. I committed to myself, not to any other individual. I committed to myself that I'm going to show up and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do 100 episodes and I'm going to address it. And if it's not continuing to bear fruit and it's not feeding my passion and where I'm trying to go with my life, then I'll reassess. But it's part of a bigger picture. I do these and I think I want to add value to the world so that maybe I can extract some value back, or I probably have extracted value back. I want to give some, whatever it is. I don't like spend my entire week looking forward to this. I'm loving it right now. I get a lot out of this. But yeah, man, like when I'm spending time with my wife, like I want to turn on the camera, tell her to go in another room and talk to you guys. Like that's not the top thing on my list to do today. But I'm an adult and I've made decisions and I'm going to, stand up and do them and, don't feel bad about it. I'm grateful to be here. What an opportunity to get to do this. Like, this is amazing. Oh, this is a great question. True Color Painting said, what are your thoughts on the Idaho Painter? My thoughts on the Idaho Painter is I have nothing but respect for that man. I have been jealous of that man in the past. I have said things about that man in the past that I regret because I saw what he was doing as so many levels above where I was that felt impossible to ever get there, which meant, fuck him, let me tear him down. Because that is what it is to be human, I believe. But that's not an evolved human perspective. And as I've thought more about it and I've matured, and I've had people, many people have probably looked at me and thought similar things as I thought to him. And through that, I realized, well, I'm just another dude just trying to do my best every day. Like, so I have nothing but respect for the Idaho Painter. I think that guy is a workhorse. He works his butt off. He produces. He does things with life. And for that, man, that is awesome. Like, the guy produces. He's an earner. He's a producer. It is so easy to sit on the sidelines and talk. It's so much harder to show up day after day and produce. And that guy does it. And, I have nothing but respect for the Idaho Painter. And I'm embarrassed for the things I've thought and the things I've said in the past. Because they were ignorant, insecure feelings that I was voicing. And that's not where I want to be. I don't want to be the person who's looking at people who are finding success and trying to tear them down. I think that he's a good human being who's trying to do the best with his abilities and with his situation. So at the end of the day, like, dude, that guy's adding a bunch of value to people. What are we talking about? Like, he's adding value to the world. He's not taking value away. He's adding more than he takes away. Is a lot. Are there things that he does that I disagree with as far as technical things? Of course. But I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. First of all, and I said that twice in one podcast. The first time it wasn't even a very good analogy. This time it was. Like that. There's so much that can be gleaned from the Idaho Painter. That man shows up day after day. He's freaking lifted weights at like 55 years old. Like, he's shredded. He's putting out content consistently. Anyone who produces content understands how hard it is to produce content, especially at a high level, especially as prolifically as Chris does. So, I got nothing but respect for the guy. And I will never say a bad thing about that guy again. Because I'm not that guy. I don't want to be that guy that talks crap about anybody. And every time you look at truly successful human beings, they don't talk crap about people. So what am I doing? Why do I talk crap about somebody? It's because of my own bullshit insecurities. Deep down, I only talk negatively about anyone ever because of some insecurity or little child hurt pain thing inside of me. Right? If you're actually going out and actively hurting people, then fuck you. But that's not what we're talking about. So I'm trying to, I look at myself and I'm trying to analyze. I've looked at I've said things about him, not horrible things, but I've said and thought things about him that, like, I don't know, I'm really embarrassed about. Like, because I have nothing but respect for that guy and I got nothing bad to say about him. And honestly, I can only hope. I know I'm swearing a lot in this episode. I'm sorry. That is something I should work on too. If you swing at a lot of pitches, you're gonna strike out on some, man. And that guy swings at a lot of pitches. So if he has some content and does some things that, like, maybe I don't agree with completely, I don't know. I'm not here to talk crap about anybody, and I'm going to continue to work really hard to not talk negatively about people. It is something that I have done in my life and do, and I think I do it out of my own insecurities, and I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it helps anything. I think it is completely a net negative to complain and to say negative things about people. I think it is, unless they are truly bad people we're trying to prevent the world from having. But, like, just talking crap about somebody to feel better about myself, man, I really hope I can get better at that. But that being said, do I watch his content? Like, no, I don't watch his content. I'm not a big consumer of the Idaho Painter's content. But that doesn't mean I have nothing. I have nothing but good things to say about him. And I don't know. I want to be positive. I want to keep the positive energy in the world. Like, man, the negative. I sound like such a hippie, but the negative stuff, like it only comes from bad places in here. It's not ever good. Thank you for your question, though. I continue to. That's why I like these lives, because I'm on record for many hours now, and I have to think about what I'm saying, and I want to be able to look back and be proud of what I said and not feel embarrassed. You know, I just posted that video of my first gloss door, right? I'm not embarrassed of it because it was my first one. But is it how I would want to do things now? No. And so I'm hoping I just always want to keep evolving just a little bit better. So On My Riches says, what is your very top choice for a paint sprayer? This is a fun one. All right. I have two, because if I had unlimited money and I was going to get two sprayers, I would buy a Wagner air-assisted airless with an inline paint heater, which we have, and I would get a SATA 5500X, SATA Jet 5500 with a pressure-fed cup. And with those two units, you can apply just about any coating at the highest level there is. Those two are incredibly, incredibly versatile machines that will help you do all sorts of things. So they're kind of obscure. You don't go to Sherwin-Williams and buy either of those pieces of equipment. But you get a Wagner air-assisted airless, and you grab one of those things and tell me it's not an impressive thing to use. Grab a SATA Jet and tell me it's not an impressive thing to use. They are amazing. I've used a lot of sprayers, and there's no question. AG Professional Painting says, do you cut and buff fine paints of Europe high gloss enamel? No, we don't. As a practice, we try never to. No. I just don't want to. Gloss work takes so long that I don't want to wait 2 to 3 weeks and then come back and buff. Because if that's what you're planning to do, there's a very, very, very thin margin of error, right? If I burn through on a wall, I've already cleaned up my masking, the clients moved their furniture back in, and we burn through on our buffing, and I got to say, hold on a second, we got to mask this whole place again, we're going to set up our bed, and we're going to respray this wall, then we're going to wait 3 more weeks, and then we're going to buff the wall. Like, man, all set on buffing gloss. Fine paints gloss, all set. I would much rather spend all the time and energy on the front end to get it so that it's as good off the gun as humanly possible. Because cutting and buffing oil enamel is not something I ever want to build my company around. At this time right now. It's just not. If I had a client come to me and they were like, I want truly perfect, I don't care. Okay, here's the deal. You ready? Are you ready for what it's going to cost? Time-wise and money-wise for me to do this project and cut and buff it? If you are ready and you are willing to spend an ungodly amount of money and wait an ungodly amount of time, then you got it. I will cut and buff this for you. But I've never found that client. Let's see. Mickey always likes to stir the pot. I can't put that question up. I'm sorry, sir. I'm Mr. Positivity only. That is this year. I hate New Year's resolutions, but that's where I'm going, man. So polyester, it's a different story, right? Polyester is going to set up much faster. Polyester was meant to be buffed. very different application. Howard Stern has gloss polyester walls. That's a very different thing. And yeah, like we have buffed polyester and wood. But I think oil enamel has a depth of color to it, a depth and a richness that no other paint has. Oil enamel is the gold standard. And, if you want car paint, polyester paint, those are great things. They are beautiful. But, man, I love oil enamel. But, yeah, this is, God, I just want to be a better person every day. And I want to be, you are what you eat. I think you are what you think, too. And I'm trying every day to focus on to think in a way that will get me the outcomes I want, right? To spend mental calories where they're best suited to giving me the outcomes I want, right? And if I spend mental calories being mad about stuff I can't control, or talking crap about people, or focusing on negative things, right, that I can't control, those are going to make me depressed, angry, not want to work as hard, not be as forward thinking. Like, it's going to hold me back. My thoughts will hold me back. They will change my decision making. So I go to therapy, I work on myself, and I'm trying to streamline my life, get rid of those bumps in the road and of the negativity, and be able to perform at the highest level possible. Which doesn't always happen all the time. I definitely struggle with depression still. Like, it doesn't go away. You just deal with it and you try to make it better every day. And so sometimes you're like, I feel like crap. All right, well, don't expect to do the best thing in the world today, but also don't hate yourself, and tomorrow wake up and be better. I don't know. Wild Iris said, what caulking do you use under your FPE oil? We generally like to use Tower Tech 2 or Tower Tech Accelerator. They're both very high performance sealants. Under the oil, the Tower Tech 2 is awesome. You just have to let it dry enough, 24 to 48 hours. But it's amazing performance. HD Frost. We just answered this question. Perfect. If you were to choose 2 sprayers to have, what would they be and why? Yeah, it would be a Wagner air-assisted airless, and it would be a Sada Jet 5500. No question. They're just... Maybe, I guess definitely the argument could be made to switch out the piston powered pump with the diaphragm pump, the Wagner Cobra. It would probably be a Wagner Cobra with a Wagner gun, like air assisted airless, but not a piston, but a diaphragm. That's a Wagner Cobra. Awesome pump. I don't have one, but I think those 2 would probably be. But anyway, a GM 4700 gun attached to a Wagner air-assisted airless, and a Sada Jet. You're going to be able to do everything with those 2. Every time I think I'm good. Mickey said, does your mind keep thinking 3,000 miles an hour at night? And do you think of Instagram comments that keep you up at night? Everyone should know that this answer is for fine finishing, not exterior painting. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I would not be trying to put out a bunch of exterior paint with those machines. That's for fine finishing. Thank you, John. Just a regular airless is going to be great for a lot of stuff. Again, I would go with one step above. I would go like a Graco 4. If I was going to get one airless, I'd get like a bigger Graco or Titan airless or Tritech. I would go a little above the 440 thing if I was going to get one. But honestly, most times you're not. Does my mind keep thinking 3,000 miles an hour at night? Yeah, I have like a little ritual that I do at night to go to bed. I put in my earbuds. I listen to, generally I listen to like an autobiography. I'm listening to Warren Buffett's autobiography right now. And I have a secret weapon that helps me sleep. It is called an acupressure mat. I should show you guys. It looks like a it looks like a little like mat with golf cleats on it. And I lay on it and it like pokes your skin, and it's not comfortable when you first lay on it. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it's not super comfortable. And you lay on it and your skin is getting poked by these little things. And so your body sends out endorphins to calm your skin. And it just like a wave of calm comes over you. You lay on it for 20, 30 minutes. You get off and you sleep like a baby. So yeah, like I definitely have to like work to, like, I'm not going to go to bed right after this. Like, I'm worked up, obviously. Like, being around other people, I know this isn't face-to-face, but being around other people gives me energy. I'm an extrovert. It gets me going. If I'm all by myself, I will get, like, depressed and slowed down and, like, not as energetic. I'm definitely a people person. I, like, get energy doing this type of stuff. But at night, yeah, a lot of times I have to put on a dry nonfiction book, set a sleep timer, use my sleep mat to like calm myself. But as far as thinking about Instagram comments, I really tried not to let them bother me. I love to delete Instagram comments. If someone's being a hater and not adding value, I will either sarcastically make fun of them and smile and it'll make my day, or I just delete the comment. Because it's my business page, and if you want to come on my business page and you want to like critique or talk crap or any of that stuff, like, dude, get out of here, man. If you want to critique something that you see on my page, I'd love to talk about it. Send me a DM. If I see somebody on something on someone else's Instagram page that I disagree with or I think could be better, I'm sending them a DM every single time. I would never go on somebody's page, their business page, and write a critique of what's going on in that post. What a ridiculous, disrespectful thing to do to somebody. It's their business, right? So I get haters, I'll delete the stuff, and I laugh. Like, man, I get it. Like, whatever. If you want to send me a DM and you want to like challenge me on something, I'd love to talk about it. I'm always trying to get better. So honestly, the Instagram comment stuff really doesn't get me going too much. People are always looking to talk crap though. And I just smile, man. Some guy said, oh man, what did he say? He commented on a post the other day, not impressed. I smiled so big, I was like, oh man, I made this post for you, trying to impress you. So I think I'm going to have to quit now. Like, come on. Like, what else do you say to somebody like that? True Color, you have a lot to growing up to do. For sure. For sure, man. There's a better way. But yeah, like, I think, yeah, I definitely don't just like go home. Like, my wife is amazing. I love my wife. She's able to just like, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to go lay down and I'm going to fall asleep. That is not me. Like, I have to have some stuff to like calm down. I'm an excitable boy. Warren Zevon. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Pro 10X said, I love brush strokes on wood. What do you recommend to make brush lines disappear? Odd question. I love it, though. I love it, man. I love brush strokes on wood, too. And I'll show you the sleep mat. Just give me a second. I'll pull up that sleep mat. I've been giving them away as gifts to people. They're $20 on Amazon. They will change your freaking life. If you have any issues sleeping, they will change your life. But what do I recommend to make brush lines disappear? All right, first thing you got to do, you have to have a smooth surface to start painting with, right? If you have a bunch of brush strokes in the previous coat, there's nothing you can do to get rid of the brush strokes without sanding out the old ones. So first thing is you got to prep the surface well. But let's just say you have a very smooth surface. Well, now you're going to want to find the finest filament brush you can find, right? So you don't want a big horsehair, thick, bristled brush because we want the thinnest bristles we can find because then they'll lay out the paint with the minimal amount of brush strokes. So there's that. And then figuring out conditioning of your paint, if you need to condition your paint some way, whether it be thinners, whether it be extenders for water base, you probably want to do something to work with your paint to get it to do what you want it to do. So you want to test it. And then there's going to be, how am I going to apply it? Like maybe you foam roll it and then you tip it off. That could be a great way to get minimal brush strokes. Mickey, I agree with you. When people talk crap, first of all, I always see that and I'm like, why does that guy not just delete that post? Like sometimes I'll like write a comment back, just like feel good in the moment, and then I'll delete the whole thing right after. Because again, a lot of us on here, not all, but a lot of us it's our business. The stuff I see businesses do on Instagram kills me. Like, man, I love True Color. You spoke your truth a minute ago, but like you did it from your business page. And I know no one's watching but painters. And maybe you don't do it other ways. But like, dude, our business is like what we say from our business page is like, it's everything. That's what our clients see. This is like, it's, you only get one chance for a first impression. And, if you're going to be on as a business and you're going to talk crap on someone else's page, dude, what are you doing? You are not winning at life. I'll tell you right now, man, that's not a winning mentality. And so if those people are often just not very happy. And I have empathy for that. I'm sorry to see that. It hurts me to see them. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Like you're in a spot where you think you need to comment negatively on somebody's post today to feel good. Like, fuck. Crap. I'm swearing a lot tonight. Caleb Simpson 8 said, looking to get an HVLP system. Thoughts on the Mini Mite 3 from Fuji Spray? Don't know a lot about it. If you're getting so you're looking to get a turbine system. If you're looking to get an HVLP system, then I would go with an automotive cup gun and a big compressor. If you're looking to get a turbine unit, because we've talked about this before, but turbine units and HVLP systems are not the same. A turbine system is an HVLP system, but HVLP systems are not all turbine units. So that it's a little tricky there. And that's True Color. That's where like I have a personal page. I should just delete it. I haven't posted for like 4 years on my personal page. It's a joke that it's there. I can't even sign into it right now. I have no idea how to sign into it. I don't know my password. But we have to be very careful. Like I follow all like business stuff. Almost all of the stuff I follow is business stuff, right? I don't follow hot girls. I don't like none of that stuff. Like ZK Painting is for business. And I would want one of my employees to come in and run my page for me and not worry about what was happening on Instagram there. Because it's our business. And that's how we need to think, is it's our business. And if we are professionals, and if we want to be successful, we need to act like professionals. But as far as the answer to this question of HVLP, we have used the Graco 9.5 Pro Comp. I think it's very important with these systems to get the pressure-fed cup. Very important. It gives you a little bit more control over the coating. So I definitely, whatever system you get, I would get a remote pot, like a remote cup that can be, you can dial in the fluid pressure and the air pressure at the gun and not just the gravity fed, which is just air pressure. So it gives you more control. Unless you're spraying really thin coatings, I'm pretty sure a Mighty Mite 3 is not what you want. If you're spraying all solvent clears, I'm sure that system is great. If you're spraying like water-based lacquer or lacquers, you're probably good. If you're trying to spray any type of latex paint, I think you're going to really be disappointed in a system like a Mighty Mite 3 or any of the turbine units, really. I know people say, and I know people are using turbine units to spray water-based paint, but like latex paint. But best practice, that's arguable. Someone says, I can't read that. Sozora D Design said, how do I start lacquer? How do you start lacquer in a smallish room? Brush or spray? I mean, if you're asking that, like, you got to start with samples first. So find a wall at your shop or in your house and practice on small samples. Unless you have a lot of spray experience, I would try brushing first, because it's just as the scale at which things can go wrong when you brush is smaller. You know, you can do one wall and you can wait. When you get to set up the spray, man, you pretty much have to spray the room or mask off individual walls and then spray one wall at a time. But I would do lots of testing, lots of samples, and I would probably start with a brush unless I was really competent with spraying. That's how I'd start doing the lacquered rim. Oh, this is a fun question. This is based off of probably that video. All week this week, I'm going to be posting old videos. We're going to be repurposing old videos. I have a bunch of old videos that I want to re-put up on Reels. And so there's going to be lots of old content coming up. It should be interesting. I would do differently today. So it's going to be fun to just sort of put that stuff up. If you guys saw that door I posted today, definitely pretty different than how we do things today. Do I get sample doors from cabinet shops? Yeah. You can buy them online. You can go to Home Depot. I have a buddy of mine who's a cabinet maker. I had him make me I paid like $1,500 for like a stack of cabinet doors. It was probably over the top, but supporting local, better to support local than to call Home Depot and get them for probably 40% less. I don't know. Maybe it's not better. Whatever. I supported local. I bought a bunch of them. We have a bunch of them now. But you can, the best thing to do for samples is go to Home Depot, get 2x4 sheets of MDF, smooth side MDF, like 1/4-inch MDF, smooth already. You can have them cut them at Home Depot into 1x1 squares. I'll stack 100 1x1 squares of MDF, prime them 20 at a time, and you have 20 1x1 sample boards to practice with. And if it gets messed up, chuck it. Costs you nothing. What would you recommend spraying on built-ins in a laundry room around the washer and dryer units? An enamel. Spray an enamel, whatever that may be. If you want to spray Benjamin Moore Advance, you can spray Benjamin Moore Advance. If you want to spray Scuffex, you can spray Scuffex. If you want to spray Pro Classic, if you want to spray C2 cabinet and trim, if you want to spray all the different ones like that, right? You can, then you get into the 2K polys. You can get into, I wouldn't get into pre-cat lacquers. I wouldn't get into conversion varnish probably. Stick to, you can get into 2K polys. You can get Fine Paints of Europe, their oil enamel or their water-based enamel. But you want to make sure you're using a true enamel, not a semi-gloss. Because guess what? Aura semi-gloss does not belong on trim. And it's on way too much trim in the United States of America right now. Folks, we have a problem. We're going to talk about a problem tonight. There's a pandemic going on of Aura semi-gloss and Duration semi-gloss on trim. And it's killing people all over the country. And we are going to quarantine until it's over with. That's what I would say. If I was the president, I would make everybody quarantine until we stopped using Aura and Duration on trim. Stop it, folks. Cut it out. It makes no sense. Someone give me an argument why. I can't wait to destroy you. And maybe not. Maybe I'll lose. I don't know. But it's got to stop. Using these non-enamels on trim is ludicrous. And it's not professional. And it's not cheaper. I don't know why we do. Why anyone's doing it. I think it's just not understanding the coatings. Semi-gloss does not equal trim paint. We're making I just hired a graphic designer. We're gonna be making a bunch of t-shirts. So if anybody has t-shirt ideas, they're not like big profitable thing. I just want to make cool t-shirts and put them out there. We're gonna make some orange peel t-shirts. We're gonna make some eye spray alkyd, eye brush alkyd t-shirts. And we're gonna make a semi-gloss does not equal trim paint t-shirts, because it doesn't. And I think that is a misnomer in our industry, that semi-gloss equals trim paint. So that's what, hopefully that helps. Scuff X for full house trim. Base, that's the base. That is a base coating system I would ever go with. It is acceptable. I think if budgets are at a certain point and expectations are at a certain point, Scuff X on trim, nothing wrong with it. Let's see. I think that might be it, folks. Wow, this has been a long one. No, it hasn't. I use Instagram to advertise my business. And by advertise, I mean market. Oh, I agree, man. I agree. Man, semi-gloss is, I do not like semi-gloss paint on trim. I'm not a fan of semi-gloss ever, really. I agree. I think it looks cheap. I know some people like it, but semi-gloss does not do it. I used so much semi-gloss when I painted for other people for many years. I don't think it's a coincidence Fine Paints of Europe doesn't make a semi-gloss. But man, last question. What is the one thing I need to focus on in 2021 for my business? It is operations. We are operations. I am operations. We're not growing. People-wise, we're going to grow internally. We've blown up this big balloon, and now we're going to like put all the trusses in and put all the scaffold, all the structure to support this balloon, so that we can build a bigger balloon and a bigger one and a bigger one, right? And each time you grow, you have to then put the systems in place. So the gold standard for trim, there's nobody can beat me in this argument. The gold standard, aesthetically and durability wise, for trim is Fine Paints of Europe Holland Lac. Whether it's eggshell, satin, or gloss, oil enamel on trim is the most beautiful, luxurious, deep, sexy, buttery, warm. You will never regret having a true oil enamel on your trim. You will touch it, you will feel it, you will look at it, and it will look good forever, and you will be so happy it's there, and that you made the sacrifice of some dry time and some, like, maybe some learning curve. Oil enamel all the way. This has been a great Sunday night Q&A. At least I think it was, and I haven't had, no one talks back to me. You comment, but no one talks back to me, so I can say whatever I want. Again, thanks everybody for watching. I know this was not all paint all the time, but it's my show, and so I get to talk about the things I want to talk about. And I really appreciate everybody being on here. I really appreciate all the comments. I hope everyone had a great holiday. We have a new year coming up. You know, new year or not, like, get better each day, man. Try your best to get better each day. And if you don't, try better. Do something different tomorrow. And if what you're doing is not working, try something different. And this is the greatest time to be alive in the history of the human race. There's never been a better time for it to be alive on the planet than right now. This is freaking awesome. We have technology that allows us you guys listen to me right now on your freaking phones for marginal cost. We have our overall well-being, our life expectancy, the violence in our world today is at an all-time low for humans in violence. Like, don't get me wrong, there's lots of horrible things that happen, and it sucks. But man, in general, as a species on a planet, we are the least violent we've ever been. That's better than nothing, right? Let's focus on all the awesome things that are going on. I know we are all experiencing hardships. That is not what I'm talking about. Hardships happen. But guess what? This is a beautiful time to be alive. And we are all here. We all have capabilities. We all have the ability to get a little bit better tomorrow. We're humans. We all have the ability to change. You don't like something about yourself? Don't say, I'm just this type of person. Get a therapist, read some books, work with another human being, and change who you are if you don't like it. We can do that. We have the ability to change who we are. That's freaking amazing. So, to the best of all of our abilities, I hope all of us work to get a little bit better tomorrow than we were yesterday. And trend up over time, man. That's all we got to do. So have a great night. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.